Wilden's going to text me if he has an issue.
I can hear you all pretty well now. Can you hear me? You able to hear me?
We'll call the, yes.
Thank you. I'll be quiet now.
We'll call the meeting to
I can
order for
hear
the
you
city of
all
Saratoga
pretty well
Springs,
now. Can you hear
Tuesday,
me?
July 6th, 2021 at 6:03 p.m. Present
You able to
tonight,
hear
I
me?
have
We'll call
Councilman
them,
Wilden
yes.
participating
I'll be quiet.
electronically, Councilman Karn, Councilman McComber. Do we have anybody else? No. Okay, so we do have a quorum tonight. For that, I've asked Councilman McComber to lead us in our invocation, followed by Corporal Bulgarian, and will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear and gracious Heavenly Father, as we come before thee this time, we're truly grateful for the many blessings that thou hast given us. We're thankful for the opportunity we have to live and work in a city as beautiful as Saratoga Springs. We're also grateful at this time to honor and recognize new officers that are being sworn in today that are here to serve and protect the citizens of Saratoga Springs. And we're grateful for their willingness to serve. We're grateful for all the men in uniform, whether it be safety, security, military. We ask that thou bless them, bless their families, and bless them as they serve, that they will be protected. Heavenly Father, as we go about making decisions that will benefit and look for the future of this city, we ask that thou would bless us, that thy spirit will be with us, that we'll be able to make decisions that will help the residents today and into the tomorrow. Heavenly Father, we love thee and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Will the audience please rise? Read the Pledge of Allegiance after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get the right mics on. Okay, thank you. We'll turn it over to our Chief of Police for the presentations and swearing in.
So Mayor and council, management staff, visitors, members of the police department, we're happy to welcome you this evening. I think this is the largest crowd we've ever had for a city council meeting since COVID ended. We have 3 officers that we're swearing in this evening, new officers to the department. All 3 of these officers are in their final stages of the law enforcement block of the police academy for the state of Utah. They're in the academy program at the Utah Valley University. So at this time, I'd like to invite Allie Downs, Dean Sakona, and Talio Roberts to come forward, and Mayor Millen. Just right up here. Yeah, watch your step. There's anytime, Mayor.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. That I will support, obey, and defend. The Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of Utah. And that I will discharge the duties. Of my office with fidelity. Welcome to the city of Saratoga Springs.
Just a couple of notes. Allie here is a native of Lehigh, but she's coming over to Saratoga Springs. She grew up in Lehigh. She's been a records clerk at our police department for about the last year. So we're very excited for her to transition from records clerk to police officer. I'm not sure we've had that happen before. And she's also the class leader at the police officer academy that these officers are in right now. About 30 officers, I think. And Dean Sakona, Dean grew up in Tonga, and he served a mission in Oakland, California, so he's no stranger to service, and service is part of what we're about. Talio Roberts grew up in South Dakota, or spent a lot of his youth in South Dakota and California, and spent some time in the Army Reserves. He also served a mission in the Philippines where he learned the language Cebuano. I don't know how often we'll need that language, but you never know. So at this time, and by the way, we have quite a grueling process to become police officers here in Saratoga Springs City. They were competing against a fair number of other people. So they rose to the top and they got selected. Now they get a badge as part of their swearing in ceremony, and they've each selected a person of special note in their lives to come forward and pin their badges on. And so at this time, those individuals that have been selected to pin on badges could come forward and do your best at pinning them on without, jabbing them in. You get a briefing on it. So you can move as you need to and start pinning those on at any time. Very good. So we had Allie's dad pin her badge on, Dean's grandfather, and Talio's wife. So now they look a lot better with badges. We'll excuse you officers from the podium, but stick around for just a minute. Do you guys have any questions? Okay. Next up, I'm sorry, come on back up here.
I was like, wait.
So there is one more part of this, and that is their commission. The mayor normally helps me with this. Are you?
This is no pictures.
Yeah, this is, they actually received their commission, which is a certificate of proof that they're commissioned as police officers. It's usually fairly important in law enforcement or the military. So each of these officers will receive a commission. I'll read the commission and then I'll have the mayor present them. Saratoga Springs Police Department Certificate of Commission as a Police Officer. The Chief of Police of the Saratoga Springs Police Department has reposed special trust and confidence in the loyalty, valor, fidelity, and abilities of Allie Downs, Dean Sakona, and Talio Roberts. In view of these qualities and their demonstrated potential for increased responsibility, they're appointed as police officer effective June 28, 2021. Given under our hands the 28th day of June, 2021 in the city of Saratoga Springs, Utah. Signed Jim Miller, Mayor, and Andrew Burton, Chief of Police. That's the first one. Right now, you may be excused from the podium. Next, I'd like to ask Corporals Zach Baglarian and Corporal Derek Dalton to come forward. So we recently had a couple of vacancies in the rank of sergeant. A very, very grueling test and process to go through to be qualified to be promoted to the rank of sergeant, very competitive. And these two officers rose to the top and are being promoted to the rank of sergeant. I will tell you, Corporal Baglarian here has been with the department for about 12 years, 3 years as an animal control officer, 9 years as an officer and or corporal. Served as a detective, has served on the SWAT team, major accident team, and I probably don't even know. And many of you know, many of the staff and the council know these gentlemen. Corporal Dalton is one of our canine handlers, but in addition to being a post-certified handler, he's also a post-certified canine instructor. And he also has served on our SWAT team, and actually he's a canine judge, I believe, which he's at the top level of canine expertise for police canine operations in the state of Utah. So at this time, I think what we'll do is we'll do the certificates first. And these are, again, they're similar, so I'll just read the one. Saratoga Springs Police Department Certificate of Promotion to Sergeant. The Chief of Police of the Saratoga Springs Police Department has reposed special trust and confidence in the loyalty, valor, fidelity, and abilities of Zach Baglarian and Derek Dalton. In view of these abilities, qualities, and their demonstrated potential for increased responsibility, they're promoted to the rank of sergeant effective June 28, 2021. Given under my hand the 28th day of June, 2021 in the city of Saratoga Springs, Utah. Signed, Andrew Burton, Chief of Police. Zach's father served 37 years in law enforcement. Is he pinning your badge? So I will recover the other badge, which is department property. And these little things aren't cheap, I'll tell you. But, and then who have you got there? And then Sergeant Dalton's children are going to come up and pin his new sergeant badge. So if they want to come forward at this time. Sergeant Dalton is wearing a cloth badge. Yeah, I previously recovered his metal badge. As a canine handler, he's got a little different uniform, and these two are both on duty this evening, so. Be careful, he'll bring him up if you want him to. All right, pretty good, pretty good. Thank you, gentlemen. And finally, since those two got promoted to sergeant, we had 2 vacancies for corporal. And we had a very grueling and competitive test for corporal. And a couple of officers rose to the occasion and are to be promoted here shortly. So I'll ask Detective Jesse Davis and Officer Ryan Snar to come forward. Ryan is the other canine handler, also very outstanding in his field. The expertise is amazing amongst our two canine handlers. Detective Davis has been the school resource officer at Westlake High School the last 3 years, and they're crying about it, losing him. But such is life when you have progression. So we'll do the certificates again. Saratoga Springs Police Department Certificate of Promotion to Corporal. Chief of Police of the Saratoga Springs Police Department has reposed special trust and confidence in the loyalty, valor, fidelity, and abilities of Jesse Davis and Ryan Snar. In view of these qualities and their demonstrated potential for increased responsibility, they're promoted to the rank of corporal effective June 28, 2021, given under my hand the 28th day of June, 2021 in the city of Saratoga Springs, Utah. Signed, Andrew Burton, Chief of Police. So again, they've chosen someone special in their lives to come forward. It'll be Jesse is having his wife, Nicole, come up and pin his badge on, and Ryan. And his wife also. So if the wives will come forward, I'll get those badges as soon as you pull them off of there and then give you the ones. I will tell you, the great thing about our department is we've had amazing personnel. I said that the tests were very competitive for promotion to sergeant and corporal, but almost anybody we had test would have been fine in the job. It's just these guys did the best. So, all right. Thank you, gentlemen.
So Chief, if my memory serves, it was back in, I think, '08 that Corporal Snar and I went through CAPS together long before he was a sworn officer and rode around in the VIPS car patrolling our town. So it's good to see he's done a lot more with his time than I have in the last 15 years.
And the councilman is referring to our volunteer program, and we've actually had three people that went through our Citizens Academy that he referred to become officers in the department.
That's great.
So,
Yeah, I remember we used to ride around together years ago.
yeah, well, you can still do that if you want. You're qualified. You went to the Citizens Academy. So Mayor and council management team, we thank you for your time and allowing us to do these promotions and officer commissionings here in the council meeting. And Mayor, if we could be excused, the police department portion could be excused. We'd go take some pictures and stuff. Well, pretty much. This is one way we can clear the room for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, I got one email.
Literally everyone left. Thanks for staying.
Yes. Okay. We'll continue on with the meeting tonight. Are there reports from the council? Oh, public input. I'm just getting too excited. Do we have public input tonight? Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. Please be respectful in your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. And please state your name and address for the record. Is anybody here for public input, or has any public input been sent in? Okay, then we will close the public input portion and we'll go on to reports. Mark, do you have something?
Under admin reports.
Okay. Let's, Chris or Wilden, well, Councilman McComber.
So I just wanted to thank the communities that care for a great event this holiday season. We've never really done much for the Independence Weekend, but we had the Remembrance Roll where residents were able to come out with their bicycles, their skateboards, their scooters, and they had decorations. They were able to decorate them up, and they were led by our police department around the park. And it was just a great opportunity to celebrate this great nation and the city that we get to call home. I also wanted to just point out and appreciated Bell, the helmet company donated 50 or 60 at least helmets that were given away free to residents to help encourage bicycle and skateboard safety. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I want to thank the communities that care. They worked hard and they were able to get a grant to help pay for this event from the county. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Mark?
Mayor, Council, on the, we did have a discussion item. We did have our departmental updates. Did you have any questions specific to those?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I was just impressed with the number of volunteer hours of recreation.
Yeah.
It's impressive to see what our citizens do.
Our recreation department.
Fantastic.
Also.
The next item that I wanted to briefly discuss with you as a council was the hot spring study. As you know, we have been working on trying to more fully understand kind of the development of the hot springs park concept. We recently got a scope of work proposal from Hanson Allen Luce, who does a lot of our water work for us. And one of the items that they proposed, which is a little bit different than what we had discussed, and I wanted to bring it back for your discussion tonight, was to begin searching for the hot springs down near Patriot Park, but rather than jump right into us drilling holes around Patriot Park and around the hot springs, they suggested that we actually work quickly on draining the linear pond between Oakwood Homes and Patriot Park. There's some invasive species that have been put in there, some game fish that probably we need to not have in there. But they recommended that we drain that linear pond and then look for the source of where those hot springs are coming in, and then use those to do some water tests, some quality tests, some temperature tests, as well as flow, measure the flow that's coming out. And their proposal was that if those are favorable, rather than drill holes all around the park, we may be able to just focus right in that location, in drilling in that location. And so again, from a scope of a project, we anticipate that it'll be somewhere around $200,000 if we go and need to do both phases. First phase would be maybe $50,000 to drain the full, drain that linear pond, do the tests and run the tests on that. If those are inconclusive, or if those don't support us drilling right in that area, then we would potentially be drilling several holes across the park. And that's where we anticipate that we'd spend approximately another $150,000 to maybe $200,000 to find the right hot springs to service that concept.
So drilling around Patriot Park or Inlet Park?
Patriot Park.
But we know there's a hot springs by Inlet Park. People go and use it now.
We do. However, that spring itself is actually inside the flood area of the pond, and aerial photography shows that those hot springs in high water years can actually be completely submersed. And the other part of that is we wouldn't be able to drill out near where that spring is. We can certainly do water samples and testing and things of that nature, but as far as drilling for a source, that source, we wouldn't be able to be real close there. So again, we'd be kind of guessing to see if we could hit the right aquifer out in that area.
So why is it that Patriot Park, drilling around Patriot Park is better than drilling around Inlet Park where the actual hot springs would be?
And I apologize, Inlet Park, I'm talking about kind of that whole area.
Okay.
And so I apologize. You're correct. We would drill, we
So
would
where
test
the
drill in
hot
there.
springs would be?
Yeah.
The pond where between Wander and that's different. That we would then have to pipe it or figure out some way to pipe it.
Right.
over.
And to pipe it certainly would be something that we could do. It certainly would be if we found that was the ideal location, we certainly could take it from there and then use that for radiant heat in other facilities. We could use
Soccer
it to do
fields,
like we
about.
talked about using geothermal to heat that. So again, we think that that's a good place for us to start the study rather than,
Well, we know it's hot water.
exactly.
Extremely hot.
And if we know that the linear pond is producing hot enough water at fast enough rates and things like that, then we could just maybe put the pump station right there and then just pipe it to where we need it for those other uses.
Do we know how the invasive fish got in there?
We don't, but suspect that some sort of sports fisherman or something put tilapia and other things in there that's more of a warm water fish that ought not be getting out of that pond anyway.
Yep. Okay, great.
So
50,000, 30,000, right, dive into the existing well logs of the state, all that information to really know what's going on. And then I think the other half about would be to investigate the pond. And the point was, drilling for water is totally a dice roll, right? Even though it seems like everything points to you should have no problem there. And so what they're saying is, before we start doing that, there might be a cheaper and more available source there. Now that may turn out to not be adequate, and we'll still do the drilling, and the deep literature drive will all the investigation they'll do on what's out there already at the state archives will give us direction on where is the most likely place, right? We want to be scientific about where we drill. But they said before we start drilling, they'll do the scientific research and do all that before we start. You may have, why not go after the low hanging fruit?
Increase our odds than just drilling.
But there may be
haphazard.
some low hanging fruit there that we may be, right in front of our faces. We don't know.
Okay.
and
Can
if
I-
it's artesian coming to the surface there, that might be a
More
better option
accessible.
for us. Yeah.
Can I ask, is there any concerns it creates with wetlands by draining the pond? I'd presume not. I was just wondering if that creates other complexities that we'd need to deal with.
No, in fact, while we drain it, it might give us an opportunity to remove some of the frag that's, invasively been there. Again, we'll also be able to determine how many flows. We have some interesting aerial photography under a historical layer. Jeremy, could you help Kayla pull up the historical imagery on the city map? Yeah. Which is a 1947 picture of the area, and it's an aerial of that area. And it's interesting to see that there's 3 or 4 little spots where we think the springs were coming into the pond at that time. Now, interestingly enough, somewhere between 1947 and 1961, they dredge that pond and the pond gets much bigger. And then by the late 60s, early 70s, the pond is in roughly the condition that it's in now. And so they clearly expanded that pond to give it more capacity. And so it's kind of interesting, the aerial photography looking at that. And if Jeremy's not going to be able to pull that up tonight, I can share it with you individually. It's on City Map.
It's right there.
And so if you don't want to spend time tonight, that's fine. We can skip over that. I also have a concept that I'd be more than happy to show you. If you want, we can pull that up tonight if we can get City Map up, or we can discuss that individually. I think the concept is really quite good in the sense that it gives us just an idea of what we might be able to do in that location. And so would you have a preference tonight? If you
I like to.
okay, let's see if we can't get that pulled up.
Hey, Mark, while you're pulling that up, I just want to go on the record. I know we already talked about this, but if we're gonna be looking to possibly tap this aquifer, I want to make sure that we don't interfere with adjacent neighborhoods who use potentially that same aquifer for their HOA amenities that have been in place for 20 years.
Yeah, and that's certainly why we want to do the testing and take a look at that. So I'm going to point to.
That was specifically one of the things we told them we wanted to investigate.
Okay.
So if you'll notice, and I'm going to point to the TV, sorry, Stephen, you can't really see it, but it's, you can see here, 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 and here, you've got basically those what look like to be where the springs are coming in. Again, this is a 1947 historical imagery. And so we think that as we drain the pond, we should likely see, those areas pop in as potential hot spots. Why don't you zoom out, Jeremy? The other aerials don't really give us.
You can see sometime between 1947 and 1961,
Mhm.
when it was dredged. It was basically a holding area for that parcel to be pumped area.
And then the other years get kind of blurry and foggy and not great. But I think 1947 is really the best image that we have of what those historical looks like before it's modified. Can you turn these layers off and show us the park layer and show us the concept? And let's just zoom in on Inlet Park. Again, if I could stamp draft all over this, I would, because turn off the green layer and turn on the hot spring layer. Nope, no concept, no other things. It's under parks. And then turn off those two green layers. And then do a base map fade once you get that on. It's very second to the bottom is base map. And then zoom in on that a little bit. So again, this is a little bit, I mean, it's very rough in concept. You'll see we've added, or we're proposing a bunch of parking. This is right across the street from the police station. This would be kind of a locker, changing room, kind of an entrance administration area. We were proposing and we were looking at doing these two as year-round hot springs or hot spring
Natural hot
fed
springs.
pools. Again, imagine if you would an infinity edge looking out across the lake.
Mhm.
Those would be quite spectacular. The swimming pool, the kiddie pool, the play structure, and more of kind of the teen area. We like to think of that is where you would
The diving.
well, you'd probably put more of a floating ninja course or something like that, or obstacle course. You'd have deeper water for swimming and
Mhm.
splashing, possibly some jumping, maybe some rock walls to climb on or something. Anyway, the concept would be these would be the actual spring water. These would be heated using the geothermal water with culinary water. The treatment plant is actually, you can't really see it very well, but it's right here. And can you scroll down just a little bit, Jeremy? Nope, that's up. Scroll up if you would. The thought would be that treatment facility would also service a tiny splash pad up right off the parking lot of Inlet Park. And the thought would be this could be a public splash pad. We can utilize the cleaning, the UV sanitizing water capacity of the pool and playground for this. So we really get double the bang for the buck. And we have a public splash pad area that would then also be outside the fence. And then we'd have the other, pay for admittance splash pad concept. The other thing that we're showing down in this area, and if you could scroll back up, we've got a little right there. Jeremy, if you could just show the future pump house off of the lake right there. Go up. Nope, it's right here. We're proposing also in our master plan, we have proposed another pump house like we have down at our South Marina, that we would take water out of the lake and put it right into our drinking water or our secondary system. And so we're proposing that potentially we would save a spot there for another pump house, 10 years, 15 years, I don't know how many years down the future, where we could again continue to take water rights from the lake and then basically use that as a pump house that's convenient. It's adjacent to this facility, and it would also work kind of in that site plan layout. So again, those are the concepts we've got. Again, very rough concepts, but something that you as a council have been talking about. And as a little working group, we've been kind of discussing the concept as well as next steps. We believe if you're okay, we would like to come with a budget amendment in our next budget amendment process, whereby we would put some money aside to do the study, to do the literature research, as well as do the lakes, the pond study to test the water and to see if there's a viable source for water there. And then at that point, make a decision as to, where do we go from there?
Well, I'm in favor. I think that it's a great concept. I like the idea of having 2 hot springs ponds only, because that would limit to Chris Karn's concern about the amount of water. If we're maybe taking from the aquifer away from other vested rights. Obviously, these water rights are old as well. So we have to remember water rights are owned by a lot of people own water rights to that aquifer. But by keeping it limited to the number of ponds that are actually natural hot springs, I think that would definitely help with that impact. I like the idea of having the swim lanes. I think that that's something that we could even look to talk to Eagle Mountain, as well as Westlake High School, Cedar Valley High School, and Westlake High School, and see if there'd be talk about potentially doing some kind of dome over it during the school year, during the rest of the year, because they don't necessarily do open swim too much. They can, but they don't do it as much. And just looking to partner with other institutions, because I know that Westlake swim team, I think, got 2nd place in state, and we have very little time. Imagine what we could do as a high school if we actually had more pool time. And so I think that I support, as one of 3 today, I support moving forward with the study for the water in the ponds. Thank you.
Yep. Any other
I'm
comments?
No,
supportive as well. Sorry, Councilman Karn.
You're good.
Mayor and Council, we really like the idea of, if we can prove this concept and we can, use heat exchange pumps for other facilities, other buildings, other things, we can see that as an amazing opportunity for us as a city to really look towards some great environmental technologies to save us money on heating costs and, all of the other amenities that we can do. Yeah. So thank you very much. You'll see that in an upcoming budget amendment, and we'll start moving forward with the proposal from Hanson.
Okay, and then Mark, I talked to you a little bit, but for the rest of the council and for a record, I talked with Chief Burton. I met last week with Scott Courtney with the Utah Department of Public Safety, their IT guy, who's their head IT guy, and Max Astor with Global Enterprise Technologies. They've gone to digital driver licenses in Utah. They're doing the test pilots right now for your phones and for the police to get records off of that. And in talking, some residents came in, it came up, spoke with Max. They would like to have Saratoga Springs be one of the first cities. We're in 2 counties. We're technology friendly, demographics work. They will be here July 27th and 28th for the Utah Governor's Public Safety Summit. But they would like to start working with us to get us get verified capable and be the first law enforcement group in Utah to be able to utilize this technology along with like the grocery stores and the liquor stores to verify age, and then do an open house in the community where we could give the opportunity to city staff and residents to come in and get their driver's license converted to a digital driver's license on their phone.
Great idea.
Yep.
So Mark, if I've got the email, could we start working with them and have he is remote. He is back in Massachusetts, but he said he could join us electronically before he's in town for that meeting, and then maybe have staff kind of figure out the nitty-gritty details underneath that. So I will forward that email to you from him.
You mentioned too, if you share, I love the less contacts when they're pulling someone over.
Yeah, they have the potential for less contact. The officer can just request the driver's license. It'll pop up on your phone. Officer Karn's requesting your information. You hit submit, it will send your driver's license information to the officer inside the car. So one less time getting out on a busy road or.
That's awesome.
So there's some cool features. They were saying like at the state liquor store, you pull it up, it gives you a QR code, it gives you your age. So it's verified real time that that's legit license, you're a legit individual. for some of those purchases. So very cool. Okay, Mark, thank you.
Mayor, that just is another example of, I think, our city being forward-thinking and willing to embrace new ideas on technology to advance our, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Consent item, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve consent items as listed on today's agenda. I'm not on.
Oh, sorry.
I move that we approve the consent items as listed in the agenda for July 6, 2021.
A second.
I have a first from Councilman Comber, a second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilman Wilden,
Aye.
Carn,
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Business item 1, the Wildflower Community Plan, major amendment.
Hey, I think, does this advance it? Okay. So it's not a big amendment. It's a 1-page amendment, which is great. Oh, whoops, okay. So as you know, Wildflower covers quite a large area. So this is the entire area map. And then the 1-page amendment is to, the cursor has to be on this. Maybe I should use the cursor. So, yeah. Okay, so what is happening in this amendment is that development standards are being set for the type 4 units, so setbacks and things like that. And these match other phases. So it's just being added for the type 4. And staff recommends approval with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Any questions or comments from the council?
My only question is, this does nothing to change densities or number of units. This is just defining the type of unit, correct? That's all we're doing.
Right, so we had a conflict in that stacked units were shown and then there was some language that said no stacked units. So this is clarifying that stacked units are permitted according to all the other information that was presented. And then it's providing the setbacks and things like that to regulate how those get laid out.
Councilman Comber?
So, and then it also is giving them 10 more feet than this current 10 more feet for the apartments and condos, correct? From 35 to 45 feet?
Right.
It's a good thing we got a ladder truck. That's
And
tall. That's a tall building.
Okay.
sorry, and correct me if I'm wrong. And sorry, Mayor, if I'm going out of turn. It's hard to see you. You're tiny on my screen right now. But from what I read, all the setbacks align with Title 19. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? This is Tippy's, so I actually don't know the exact answer to that.
They look like they do.
But,
Yeah, I think I read that it said in the materials that there wasn't deviations from.
oh, it does say that right here. Well, it says that they match the previously approved community plan setbacks.
Okay, great.
Okay. There's no other questions. I'll entertain a motion.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll move that we approve business item 1 as stated on the agenda with all staff findings and conditions.
And I'll second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Carn. Any further discussion? McComber,
Aye.
Carn,
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Business item 2, Mount Saratoga Community Plan, Major Amendment, 4th Amendment.
Okay, I'll go through this. We have the community plan amendment and 2 village plans. If it makes sense, I can go through all 3.
Yes,
Okay,
go for it.
and then the applicant also has a presentation that they'd like to offer, if
Okay.
that's all right.
That'd be
Okay.
fine.
So this community plan amendment, the unit count stays the same. So 2,400 is what was previously approved. They're reorganizing their phasing and moving some density around, so moving some single family to other single family and things like that. The original one did not allow any single family to be traded to multifamily, and they have not done that. They've actually reduced their multifamily just a little bit by 22 units and made those into single family. And then they've further defined within their flex area what is going to be 2-family and 3-family and single family. And they have actually added more amenities. So they're meeting all the original requirements and then also added a few more amenities. So a little pickleball park. And then one thing that they had asked was to reduce the front garage setback to 18 feet, and we do not support that. Staff does not recommend that, and developer was okay at keeping that at 20 feet. They said all their products could still work. They are requesting additional areas for a 2,000-foot block length due to steep slopes, so that would reduce the cuts in the hillside. So, and it will allow them to kind of get the stepping view lots, and then they won't have to cut so much for cross streets. They've also added some private drive standards for rear loaded product. And then, as I mentioned, they increased some of the amenities. This right here is just some small changes to the amenity locations. So adjustments to reflect the current layout. And then right here, same thing, adjustments to reflect the current amenity layout. And then so this is an updated phasing plan for the transportation. In the original approval, one of the conditions was that they do not connect the two ends of Mount Saratoga Boulevard until traffic can go all the way out. So this is just clarifying that. So right now, this purplish blue color has been built. The next phase they want to do is this pink color, and then leaving this orange area for last. So that's consistent with the previous approval, so that we don't get traffic coming into Mount Saratoga and then using Talus Ridge Boulevard. These are the areas where where they're requesting the block length update. We do support that because it is better for those hillside areas. So on this diagram, they're requesting some small shared driveways just in 3 locations. So this location here, and then they didn't put these in blue, but these 2 locations here. And then they are proposing this private drive within their multifamily phases. And so staff recommends approval with the front setback for the garages remaining at 20 feet, and that page 33 be updated to clarify where the 48-foot right-of-way is allowed. And I will jump into Village Plan 3.
With this.
So Village Plan 3, you can see it highlighted on this area here. And then what happens in the village plan is they get more defined about their lot layout. And so we'll see a lot of slides here with different lot layouts within Village 3. So this is the overall Village 3. You can see each of the different unit types that were mentioned, the single family, the flex, and then the multifamily. So here is the proposed multifamily phase. It has townhomes and condominiums. And then this is an additional area, and then they've of multifamily, and they've got their clubhouse and amenities and pool for the multifamily phase. This lotting map right here includes the flex, and they've given us the keys. So they have some front-loaded units and rear-loaded units, and some duplexes and triplexes. And then we're seeing something similar to that with just a different color coding. So duplexes and triplexes, and also some front-loaded and rear-loaded. And then the single family within some of the flex phases is shown on these next lotting plans. Here's a pickleball court. So they did add, I believe it's 5 pickleball courts that they did not have to add because it's above and beyond the amenity requirement. They just wanted to be able to make this a nice usable park for the community. And then there will also be a restroom in there and parking along the edge. And so staff also recommends approval of that, subject to approval of the community plan amendments that were just viewed. And then so Village 5, And that'll be this northern area here. And they do want to get started on Village 5 so that they have that Mount Saratoga Boulevard connection coming from the north end of this development. And you're seeing single family and flex within Village 5 and a church site and more green space. And so these are just some lotting maps for Village 5. And then staff also recommends approval of this Village 5 subject to approval of the community plan that was just shown. So.
Okay.
And oh, the applicant did want to present. I don't know if
Perfect.
you're ready for that.
Yes, you want to come up to the table?
Can you?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Brandon Watson with Edge Homes.
I'm Jared Nichols with Edge Homes too. So
We'll tag team this tonight, but Sarah did a good job there on presenting our village plans and community plan amendments. So I'll just kind of hustle through this presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. So I'm not sure who I speak to advance slides, but there's your sign. Okay, so if you want to go to the next slide, this is our overall layout of villages 3 and 5. Most of the community plan changes that we're making is just as Jaron and I and our team has gone out on site, and we've kind of looked at the lay of the land a little bit closer. And so we felt like it was necessary to not do as much earthwork as we've been doing in the past there, like on Quail Hill as an example. And so we wanted to really lay this project out to sit in with the hillside a little bit better. And when we went out there on site, we noticed, there's quite a big bowl that sits in this particular village. So you'll notice that, or villages, you'll notice these roads kind of, they follow along the contour of the land a little bit better. And it really does create an opportunity for view lots and walkout lots. And really kind of, it's tucked back into Mount Saratoga quite a ways, but it does have a really cool view looking out over the Saratoga Springs. So that was one of the main reasons why we decided to adjust the layouts a little bit. And then I do want to point out the location of the multifamily areas, like Sarah had discussed earlier. The condos and the townhomes kind of sit right there next to two major intersections between Talus Ridge Drive and Mount Saratoga Boulevard. So it prevents, those higher traffic areas from driving through a bunch of single family to get to their homes, puts them right on that main boulevard, and they're able to get in and out a lot quicker. The other thing that these villages bring on, like Sarah mentioned, is our connection SR 73. I know there's been discussions about traffic right now going down. I know that was a topic that was discussed at our original community plan that we brought many years ago with Councilman Porter. He didn't want to have everybody driving down through Talus Ridge Boulevard. And so we want to bring on that connection SR 73 and really encourage people to head north or south rather than east down.
you can do your best.
Yeah, we'll do our best. So
People are still going to use Talus Ridge. Just
yeah. But hopefully, hopefully they'll maybe find that it's a little quicker to go SR 73 route. So all right, yeah, the next slides. So I'll just jump into
a quick question on that.
yeah.
Could you go back? Which one of those roundabouts is Talus Ridge Boulevard? Is it the one all the way to the edge?
One right in the middle. So
Okay, the one right in the middle.
Yeah, that is correct.
And so everything that you've got on this map is Village Plan 3 and 5.
Correct.
Okay. I know your plan is to start on the SR 73 and come down on that. This map is showing me that. Can you bring that all the way to Talus? I mean, how close do you then to connecting those two?
So our original commitment when we got the community plan approved was that would be the last connection that we make is that roundabout there at Talus to connect Talus Ridge Drive and Mount Saratoga Boulevard. So
and we've already built to the other roundabout.
Yeah, we built to the other roundabout on the right-hand side of the screen there. That is, in fact, we may have even paved it. Yeah, I think we just recently paved that. So
then how far south are you going to bring it in this next phase?
How far south?
Yeah, from 73, how far south are you going to come down?
Yeah, so we'll go, so you can see where the church parcel is. There's the next intersection to the south. I the church parcel is kind of that teal greenish color. We'll go to the next intersection to the south there, and then our next phase will take it to the multifamily intersection. If I had a pointer, I would point.
You're probably still several years away.
No, so right now we have plans. In fact, we're in final design right now for Mount Saratoga Boulevard from SR 73 to that first intersection.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll have that done and approved and ready to construct that this winter. And then the next phase, we want to bring that on, spring or summer of next year.
To make the full connection.
No, the last connection will happen that final connection will happen probably in 2023 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless houses keep building at the rate they are.
Yeah. It's kind of a roll of the dice right now, but right now I know what for sure our 2021 and our 2022 plan looks like. And then, if things keep going the way they are, it could be 2022.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So let me just jump in real quick to the architecture on our multifamily units. So like I said, this is kind of centrally located between these two villages. This brings on our Chantel plan, which we have not built yet in Saratoga Springs. So it's our alley load product. Has a really great streetscape, and we've also designed this so that each individual unit has its own architectural theme, I guess. Some are hardy, some are brick, some are a mixture of stone and hardy and whatnot. So that's one that we're excited to bring on here in Mount Saratoga. And then we also bring on some more condominiums. So we'll introduce the Abbey Plan, which is the one in the bottom left and the bottom right. These are just a couple of elevations and color schemes that we'll go through, but it does introduce kind of some turret towers on the ends of it that are in the master bedroom, and they really create a unique, I guess, reading nook or whatnot. And we've received a lot of positive feedback from that and other communities. So we're excited to bring that to Saratoga Springs. Now, as a buffer between the the condos and the single family, we've got the townhome units. And one thing I do want to point out is the townhomes that are backing Mount Saratoga Boulevard, there's about 35 feet of landscape buffer between the back of the sidewalk on Mount Saratoga Boulevard and the back of those units. We'll have 10 feet of landscaped area, a fence, and then another 25 feet till we actually hit the building itself. So those will fill off that main boulevard. That spacing fill will be there. So okay, yeah, the next slide. I'll just jump into a little bit of the theming and the quality of the open space that will be presented. The main theme of Mount Saratoga is kind of a mountainous theme, and so you'll notice in these pictures on the left and right hand side is we do carry that mountainous theme throughout all of the open space that we have. That top, I guess it's the middle right picture there. That's going to be your sense of arrival when you come up Talus Ridge Boulevard. When that final connection happens, you'll go through that roundabout. It's going to be a nice open space area, and really and not feel very crowded. So we do kind of carry that sense of arrival on a lot of these. There's some awkward corners that are triangular in shape. And so they actually create really great opportunities for that theming to really pop throughout the development.
If I can just make a quick comment, just you can share with your landscaper, you'll probably do a lot of pine trees because you want that mountain theme.
Sure.
We do not have a lot of iron in our dirt to make sure they supplement with iron and systemic bore.
Okay.
Just to help them out. Honestly, like if you share that, your pine trees will survive.
Great.
If you don't, they won't make it.
We've had our fair share of replacing
Pine trees.
Yeah, Lakeview
So
Terrace
it's the
was a
iron and the
duty.
systemic bore. Yeah, cool.
Okay. We also have some plazas and sitting areas throughout. So for example, that top left and middle left-hand side, you'll see there's some kind of notches that we've done into the hillside to create kind of little secluded playground areas or plaza areas for people to go and sit at and enjoy the outside. So, all right, the next slide, I'll jump into our main amenities, which is the clubhouse and pickleball areas. Again, that top right is the roundabout picture. And that's going to lead you right into the clubhouse and pool area, which in that bottom right picture, you can see that we've got a very large pool, our largest clubhouse that we offer. It's got playground and basketball courts, some plaza sitting areas, just really kind of a resort style feel as you go to the clubhouse area.
Are your different villages sub HOAs within a master HOA?
Yes, they are. So
Okay,
they're
so
all encompassed in the same.
I mean, Mount Saratoga is one HOA,
Correct.
but then like Village Plan 3 is Village Plan 3 its own sub HOA? Or is it just the town or just the multifamily within Village Plan 3?
Yeah, so what we planned was village plans 3 and 5 will be, they'll all have share in the clubhouse pool,
Okay,
the pickleball area. So a single family and multifamily alike
okay.
will all have.
So not all of Mount
access.
Saratoga has access to these. It's just these two village plans.
Yeah, not necessarily. We did talk kind of conceptually with our HOA management group and our attorney who writes the CCNRs that
Mhm.
maybe down the road, there's a way for the rest of Mount Saratoga to somehow get involved. The residents that live there that, we didn't have this when they came into Mount Saratoga. We're kind of working on a conceptual way of bringing them in if they want to, but not making them.
Okay, so the additional pickleball courts and things you've added as part of this plan, that'll be technically limited to these village plans.
Now.
I don't know for now that we're gonna, there's no plan in the CCNRs to limit who uses it necessarily, like with a key card or anything like that. But just whose HOA's dues go to this.
Well, you're
was-
gonna
was
want to
what we're-
limit it. Whoever's paying for it can use it.
Sure.
Because otherwise you're gonna have people from all over the city coming to use your pickleball courts because ours fill up.
Yep.
The pool especially, you would want.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna
For sure.
want to, if Village Plan 3 and 5 are paying for it, if I'm paying for it, I don't want anybody else using it. So,
For sure.
yeah, I would for sure limit it.
And yeah, so again, the HOA management group and our attorney who's drafting up those, they're working together to make sure, I'm not the expert on that, but I'm sure they're having the same conversations you're mentioning there, and we'll make sure it's something
You
that,
make better neighbors if everyone can be involved who wants to. be
yeah,
involved.
yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
You can create a lot of enemies in your neighborhood.
So,
Okay.
So on the left-hand side there, you can see, we've kind of nicknamed it internally Pickleball Island, but it is a kind of an island that's surrounded by roads on all sides. It has 6 pickleball courts, bathroom, playground, some shade structures. And just again, that plaza area and the theming throughout. So it would really be a cool place to go hang out. So. All right, and then so next slide, I'll jump into our 2-family and 3-family units real quick. So these just briefly have been placed strategically to kind of buffer the multifamily areas from the single family areas. And, they'll still carry that same architectural feel that Edge Homes has to offer. These are just some samples. We'll have a lot of color schemes and material types. I do want to point out the yellow on the left middle is another new type of unit. This one offers a Rambler option for those that don't want to walk up and down stairs and have main level living. So it's much bigger footprint, much bigger square footage. It does come with a loft option. So if somebody did want to have the ability to have, children or grandchildren over and place for them to stay, it does have those options in it. So we felt like that was a really good transition into some of the single family areas.
So what's the square footage of your Rambler townhouse?
So they get up to about 1,800 square feet with not including the unfinished basement. So,
Full basement?
yeah, they have
1,800 plus a basement.
plus a basement.
Oh,
Wow,
good
that's really
size.
good size. Yeah.
And that's obviously with a loft option as well.
I like the look
some-
of your multifamily, your bigger units, how they have like the different surfaces, your elevation.
Mhm.
It has a mansion style feel so that it doesn't look like condo or an apartment
Sure.
complex.
Yeah.
I think your design is well thought out.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so next slides, just kind of our single family again. The strategy there, this really kind of felt like points out the stadium seating, I guess, for lack of better words, but it really is going to create an opportunity to work with the land and not against it. and create those views and those walkouts that are very desirable. So, and then we do have some trail connections. You'll notice in the picture on the middle left.
What are those lot sizes?
So most of these lot sizes will be, in the 5,000 to, yeah. So the ones I'm going to call it the C shape on this picture, those will be 5,000 foot minimum. And then the ones up in the top right, the buffer up against Sage Hills, those are going to be 12,000 square feet minimum.
Okay,
At least the
Is
ones
that a
on the
third?
outside.
12,000.
Thousands almost.
Almost a third.
So I'm not gonna, I don't want to say it in the motion or anything, but I do see where the fire chief has to approve, this. I just want to make sure that I love the idea of the long roads to help with the views and the stepping and everything, but just if we can just make sure that he is okay with that from a fire and safety code, because that's one of the reasons why we have those cross sections is for that, and the ability to get out in case of an emergency, and where these are guns to the hill. So as our fire marshal, just if we can confirm that. Thank you.
Yeah, and along those lines, you'll notice a couple of these roads have some mid-block cul-de-sacs. Again, those
That's
are
helpful
just to kind of help
turnaround.
facilitate.
So with the
some
big
of that.
ladder truck now, it gets tricky.
Sure, yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's my presentation in a nutshell. So I know I covered both villages, but this might cover all three of our items tonight.
Perfect. Are there any other comments from the council?
I just had one. Sorry, I interrupted someone again.
Chris was going to make a motion, but we'll let you talk.
I'll just say, I've noticed this a couple times. I think this is great when we have developers coming in, not pushing to add density, but they're actually reducing units down, moving from multifamily to single family. Very much appreciated. I think this has been a good trend last couple of weeks anyway that I've seen. So much appreciated. We'll go ahead and instead of dragging it out, I'll stop talking.
I'll entertain a motion.
Kevin, can we move? We're on all three at the same time. Is that a problem? Okay. I move to approve business items 2, 3, and 4 as published on the agenda with all staff finding and conditions.
I'll second that.
I have a first from Councilman Carn, a second from Councilman McComber. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilman Wilden,
Aye.
Comber,
Aye.
Carn.
All right.
Motion for business items 2, 3, and 4 passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Good luck. Is he doing?
Okay. And then item 5, Alpine Acres, Councilman Carn has requested that we,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we, do I table that or do I just
Postpone.
postpone it?
We did not have a chance to look at it.
Them out, they're here.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
Paxton, he's a good guy. Okay, most of the time. But as far as, Paxton, just so you're aware, I was only briefed right before the meeting on some of the terms that you discussed earlier today, and I shared that I'm not convinced ready to make a recommendation to council.
That's
to
fair.
support the
and most of the council hasn't had a chance to really look at it.
We totally get it.
Okay.
We understand that this development agreement has a few items we've been negotiating and trying to nail down ourselves. We thought that since we were on the agenda, we at least show up and express our views on a couple points.
Okay.
And maybe even get some feedback from you on a few of these points. And then continue to work with Kevin and Mark and Sarah and Jeremy, everybody else to get
The
this to a
gang.
point to be approved. But it's a rezone, you understand that this is a rezone application and we all know the standards. You have a lot of discretion. So we want to talk a little bit about what we plan to do, share the sort of the issues that I think are going to be a little more controversial and maybe see what your views are. So if we could do that, that'd be great.
Perfect.
Okay. So the request is to amend the general plan from institutional civic and medium density residential to low density residential. And then also amend the zoning map from agriculture to R110, which is low density residential, single family, 10,000 square foot lots. So this is the area, not the bottom half actually, but just this area here is currently owned by the school district. And they are looking at not using that property. So this is a better outline of the particular area. And then, as we mentioned, the medium density and the institutional civic on the general plan, and then on the zoning map, the agriculture to the R110. Here's the concept plan. So a couple of things that are still under discussion. You can see that they have lots fronting Marie Way, and just across the street is the elementary school. And we've received some complaints in the past about parking issues on Marie Way. So one of the staff recommendations is that they do not front driveways on Marie Way, and that's something the applicant wanted to discuss further. And then another topic is right here, we have a canal. And then our trails master plan has a regional trail along that area. And the applicant is hoping that that would be city owned and maintained. Oh, I need to share the screen, just a moment.
Sorry, Councilmember Wilden, we'll get that for you.
What's that?
Wilden couldn't see it. They
Oh,
weren't showing. the
okay.
screen yet. Now they're-
Thanks. I was following though. So
Okay, so I think those are the two bigger discussion items, whether or not the trail and the landscaping around that trail could possibly be city owned, and then whether or not they could have driveways along Murray Way. And so the applicant prefers not to have an HOA. Some of our guidelines for accepting ownership of open space would be that it be 5 acres or more, and this would not be. However, with just improving this particular area here, they would be short on open space, so they would like to consider the payment in lieu of open space option. There is also an option in our code that allows them to get credit for improving city open space, and there is some next to this, but it would be between the canal and trail right of way and the future Mountain View corridor. So that would also potentially be up for discussion, whether or not the city would want that improved.
It's the big square in the middle.
Improved.
What's the big square in the middle?
The big square in the middle, they're showing a park, but in our discussions today, they were saying that they would prefer to do payment in lieu of open space rather than that park. And even with this, they're not fully meeting the open space requirement that's specified in the
How
code.
big is that space?
One, just over an acre. And so those are the two main
Roughly
topics.
20 acres, so they need roughly 2 acres. in
Because they're
total.
next to
Right.
a lot of schools, a lot of
open
open space,
space.
a lot of park area.
Right.
Neptune's not far. I mean, I get that there's a lot of parks, especially, I mean, there's what, 5 schools or something, whatever, I can't remember, 5 schools now, yeah, in the area. So I guess that makes sense to me.
Makes sense.
Okay, and I want to pull up.
The
city-
trail, that
city,
is a little bit of a concern because of
city
consistency.
map. Let me share city map just so that you have a good visual of what's around it. So I will. So this is the area under discussion right here. You have a park in this neighborhood, and then you have 3 schools around it. And then Neptune Park is fairly close as well, or well, 4 schools around it actually. And then,
Sarah, I think the base layer towards the bottom there is on, which kind of
Oh,
dulls
okay.
out the
Okay,
color.
Yep,
There you
okay,
go.
there we go. Thank you.
I'm familiar with the area.
And so this is the canal and trail under discussion. Right now, we have a segment of it along that allows pedestrian access to the school. And so if they were to provide that in here and also connect to the neighborhood, that would be another option for possibly pedestrian access. Maybe they wouldn't, maybe they would just use the sidewalks. But so this is basically what we're looking at. This area right here is the upper half of the canal, or the western half of the canal, and that's city owned. So we could potentially look at whether or not they could also develop some of that property to meet their open space requirement. And they would really prefer that it be public owned and maintained open space and their position is that there will be a regional trail on it. However, we do have many regional trails in the city that are HOA owned and maintained. And the city would actually maintain the trail surface, just not the landscaping around it if it is an HOA. They are just hoping not to have to create an HOA.
And I think that's part of the challenge that I see is from an economic standpoint. I don't see the benefit at this point, and I'd like to maybe understand that more. For us to just take on acreage and us be responsible for maintaining more is inconsistent with what we've done in other areas. While it would be ideal to have a project that doesn't have an HOA, we all agree with that. I'm not sure that the public interest is best met by shifting their responsibility onto the city in this particular situation. So again, something to consider, and that's, I think, why I'm probably not willing to give a staff recommendation. Now, some of the staff have reviewed it, and I think some of the staff is comfortable, but I would say I'm not there.
Mark, is that the same scenario we saw a month ago with the development along Redwood?
Yep.
Right? Yeah, it's no
Exact
different than
same.
that.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Councilman Carn, you were going the same place I was. I'm, I don't want to create an HOA just to create an HOA, but at the end of the day, we need to be consistent. We literally had the same conversation a month ago. And from my standpoint, I feel like we need to be consistent, especially within less than 30 days.
Mayor,
Councilmember.
I appreciate the concept. I like the R110, of course. We're going from medium density and civic, which I think that having some houses in this area would be great. They'll be supported. They'll be able to, because they'll be able to go to the schools other than walking distance, et cetera. I understand the parking issue with the driveways facing the school. I think that let's have conversations. There's ways we can put signs up, no parking along here, certain hours. There's different things we can have, like the signs like we do in front of Westlake High School to keep the high school kids from parking on the road and stuff. But because I'm just trying to look, I'm looking at the layout and it's tricky to try and make that work with not having. And then my concern is they come back with, okay, so let's do an alley and I'm gonna have mixed medium density again. I would rather not have medium density, keep it as R110 and figure out some other solutions.
Yeah.
That's just me throwing it out there because that's what you're saying, just getting some ideas. And then in terms of the canal and the trail, we have to just stay consistent on that. Now it's away from your project. I just want to bring to staff. I was driving down 8th and the Utah Water they bought that project from Eagle Mountain. Their landscaping is crap and they have 4-foot weeds along 800. I get that they're not going to landscape all the way, but it needs to look nice. It looks dumpy, junky, garbage. Your new development, the last thing you want is in the corner of your development having an eyesore. A nice building with a fence is fine. You can build around that, but having all of that garbage. So if we can just make sure we're getting on that and holding them accountable.
Sure.
That's a totally yours. This is something else I just noticed.
So Michael, thank you so much. To your comment, one of the things that I think is interesting is, and this is what Jeremy's comment was, is this roadway here really needs to line up across the street with the front of the school. I think if they can bring back a site plan that does that, it interestingly enough starts to cure one of the concerns that I've got, and that is just some dead space. We don't want several feet of dead space on the backside of those lots between that and the hill of a canal, because that's just going to accumulate trash, weeds.
Tumbleweed.
And again, the ask is that we take care of, being responsible for that. And I think that that's one of those things. Now, if the road is shifted and it removes that back lot scenario, then I think there's certainly some intrigue that could be addressed there. So I think that overall, you could adjust this. You could have it so that there are no driveways on Marie Way, and you could do it by maybe shifting some lots and having maybe a cul-de-sac on the end so that the back of the lots that would be in conflict on Marie Way would be cul-de-saced. So there's some different things that probably could be done that may work. Again, that's kind of for them to figure out their lot layouts.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, be creative, look at the different options, but I don't want to come into alleys and multifamily housing because right now it's showing medium density.
And the other thing that I wanted to point out, and this was a question Councilmember Carn brought up to me earlier when we spoke earlier today, we jumped on the map and we looked around the city, and at all of the places where we have schools, adjacent to two homes in a similar configuration. There's either wider road widths. So think of Springside Elementary that has a wider road cross section, which then allows for some of those conflicts to be mitigated, as well as there was one down on the south Saratoga Springs Elementary that's being built right now. And again, that's a wider pavement cross section that then mitigates that. And in both those cases, that's the only two scenarios that we found here in the city where there was conflicts like that. All of the other conflicts had it where the road widths didn't have the driveways, which were conflicting with the schools across the street. And so although that may not be a formal drafted code policy, I think that's something that you may want to consider at a future code amendment that would then try and limit those conflicts going forward, because we know that we're going to have more schools coming in, and we probably ought to address that one sooner rather than later.
Mark, that is something that we haven't discussed with the applicant yet, that the existing cross-section for Marie Way doesn't meet the local road cross-section in existence. And so it doesn't have sufficient parking on street. So that's something we hadn't talked about that Mark brought up. That was a valid point.
And I apologize. I just spoke with Councilmember Karn earlier today, and that's something that we didn't get a chance to communicate with.
And then I just wanted to also clarify another point about the general plan. General plan is an advisory tool. The actual legislative decision that's made is the rezone. And so there's times that the council may decide not to follow the general plan, and that's totally okay, because it is simply advisory per our city code.
And I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
But we also want to try and be good partners.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's hard to tell if I'm interrupting someone or not. I don't think I did this time, but I agree with Councilman McComber. I think if a city, I like the fact that we're bringing in lower density versus medium density. So if we can be somewhat creative to help facilitate that. And obviously I'm in support of finding ways to reduce those conflicts. But after working with the city and the developer, if there's not an optimal way to do it, I would say if there is potential conflicts, that it be recorded on the plat. And I know we've done that like next to Patriot Park where there's lights on or going to be lights on till what is it, midnight or something like that. That could be another alternative to look at. Not about the lights, but putting something on the plats that, hey, you're going to be congested parking being next to a school or something similar.
Good idea.
I like the concept. I think we can just work out a few of the little nuances. This will be a great project.
Yeah, sure. Just a couple of ideas.
Yeah.
for you to consider.
We agree. We think it will be a great project. We also like the concept. As we work through it, we actually probably went through half a dozen different concepts working with staff. And I know some of our employees have talked with a few city council members. I'm not sure which of you that wasn't. It wasn't with me. But we initially were looking at medium density, as the general plan showed. And then we looked at a blend of medium density with lower density transitioning towards the other communities. And ultimately, in working with staff, they kind of indicated, no, the best path forward for getting an approved plan is to go with this R110, and it's a strong development. We like it. I think I can safely say nobody likes HOAs. I just moved to get out of an HOA myself.
People who live in HOAs for a reason.
I moved to get out of my last
Sometimes.
HOA.
So,
Elected official HOAs are a protected zone for me.
right. It would be our goal not to have an HOA. We understand sometimes they're needed, and we have communities that have them fairly often, I would say.
Wouldn't be very expensive.
No, it would not. Where this site is a little bit different than even the one on Redwood that you talked about previously is where the trail goes from north of us and south of us. Those are going to be city maintained pieces of trail. And we're just pinched in the middle, right? So we're this little 600 feet, I think, piece that's the piece that's going south from us down to Pony Express is by public facilities, those water pump houses, I think.
That's not UP, it's not city.
Those are owned by Alpine School District or other districts.
Well, there's the Alpine School District, but then on the west side is the, is that?
Is Central Utah. That's what they were just talking about.
Okay, Central Utah. Okay, yeah, my mistake, sorry. But those pieces of trail are city maintained pieces of trail. Or will be, I guess, when they get built. For now, we're gonna have our 600 feet that doesn't really connect to anything on either side other than Murray Way, right? Which is fine, and we're happy to build that trail system. We know that the city wants that very much, and we're happy to work through that part and help build that trail. And we appreciate the city working with us on the city land adjacent to be able to use some of that towards our open space requirements for the development. I guess trying to understand how our 60 units or wherever we end up right around that generates the need for a regional trail system, right? How this development generates that need. Like I said, we're happy to build it, but to own it and maintain it into perpetuity, I'm just not sure how we can do that, having our 60 residents paying for a citywide improvement.
Yeah,
So-
we would do the surface, but then it's the landscaping, that's not.
Right. And again, if you're using that open space to offset your open space needs and requirements, then that's the exchange, right? We would take the trail surface, and then that would be what you would then be responsible for as part of that maintenance responsibility.
Okay, I mean, and we see the install side, it's the maintenance side that we struggle with, and the ownership, I guess. Is this a dedicated to the city open space, or is this privately owned open space that has a regional trail on it? There's, I guess, maybe a little
We have
confusion.
thousands of miles. We have a lot of public open space trails that are maintained by HOAs and communities. So
Right.
we have definitely precedents. I don't think we're gonna litigate that here today. I think have a conversation with staff and then bring that forward. It probably wouldn't be wise for you to try and.
Okay, and we're just trying to understand it, I guess, that's kind of how I feel. The fronting on Marie Way, I guess, did you have anything else trail-wise? It's okay. Fronting on Marie Way, we're trying to find the most efficient layout possible. We're trying to, double load all the infrastructure wherever we can. We want to minimize the streets to, and have an efficient layout. As this concept plan shows, without realigning that west road, and we acknowledge that's probably going to need to be realigned. But this one shows, I think, 3 lots that all the other lots could be set to be fronting on the access drives or internally, and we'd have 3 central lots. If that road moved, it might turn to 4. We're looking at 4 lots. The discussion has been much around parking being the issue. And to solve that parking issue, we can't front lots onto Marie Way. It feels like there might be another solution, like it was, you said, with no parking signs or some painting, some curbs. Even with talking with the neighbors, the trouble that they have are parked vehicles, schools queuing against parked vehicles blocking the way. And our development is the one who, I guess, is trying to solve that in a roundabout way, but the parking issue is still going to be a parking issue, whether we front Marie Way or not. So
If I could, I'd like to jump on that. You're bringing up a very interesting question. And again, we've addressed it in other parts of the city. The thing that's really unique about the school that's right across the street from most of those lots is it is a special needs school. So it has exclusively parents and or bus delivered children to that facility. And so those conflicts are not small. I mean, that's major if they can't get a bus in or out, or if there are parking issues, it becomes quite substantive. This is not a walking school. Although there are far fewer students, it is a demand though for that facility. And it's one of those things that we need to contemplate.
Yeah, another reason why this is an issue is because Marie Way is not designed right now to accommodate parking on both sides of the road per the fire code. That's why we have a different cross section now. The Marie Way was built at a time when basically it doesn't allow for parking on both sides of the street. So that's why engineering's especially concerned with that. So if there were some parking on the street, you would have to expand the road to meet the current local road cross section. Does that make
Are there any
sense?
city plans to expand or widen Murray Way right now? Or are you saying if we front, we would have to expand that portion of Murray Way? I think that's. what you're
Well,
saying.
you know, as you know, Paxton, you have to build the local road standard to meet your needs of your project. So that's up for discussion about whether that needs to be expanded. But certainly if there's homes fronting Murray Way, it would need to be expanded to allow for parking on both streets or both sides of the street per the fire code.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, I think those were kind of the big topics as we look through these, the development agreement and this development. Those are big points. I think everything else is workable.
So I think from here, we'll go back and work with staff. We're gonna make sure Mark's part of that discussion and hopefully come back with something that everybody can support.
Okay, perfect.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you for taking the time, and if you want to make a motion.
Chair, I move to continue the Alpine Acres request another meeting at a future date set by staff with a direction to the applicant and staff on information and or changes needed to render decision.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Carn,
I'll second.
second from Councilman McComber. Any further discussion on the motion? McComber,
Aye.
Wilden,
Aye.
Carn,
Aye.
motion passes unanimously. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Just Mayor, Council, thank you very much for the feedback on Central Utah. We'll reach out to them tomorrow. I took a note of that and we'll pass.
perfect. Okay, with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.
No close.
Not with those three of us.
Well, I'm glad I showed up to this one.